How does it feel to be back on a field again?
Oh,
you know, your toes between the grass, so to speak.
It feels amazing. I mean, you feel the energy, the optimism flowing through here. Like, it's impossible not to want to get out there a little bit and run around. No, but it's great to be out here. It's so good seeing the guys getting prepared, and the entire group is out here, setting the right mindset for what we hope is another great season.
What's the most surprising part about being out here?
I would say there's so many cool things, right? It's a little bit different for me coming from, soccer background. I would say just seeing how, tough the guys are playing against each other without actually hitting. I think it shows the professionalism. They're still competing at a high level, still competing for spots. And even though they're not hitting each other, they're still, going out there and giving their best. So
a little more hitting today with the pads, but you're right. The thud rules and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Would you say, because I think we know that American football is a lot different than the international game that you played. How would you say the athletes you see here differ in the way practice rolls than maybe some of the sessions that you would have either with the U.S. men's national team or even when you were playing club at Toronto FC?
Yeah, I think the bouts during sessions are a bit shorter, right? We were talking about a little bit about that earlier. Like, here in football, you see a lot of, 5-10 second bouts, maximum intensity, but, with a bit of a break. So I think that's one of the bigger differences I see, whereas soccer, you kind of go a little bit long-term, 5, 10, 15, sometimes even 20 minutes.
More endurance.
Before you get a break. So, right away you see those differentiators.
Yeah, one of the things about this time of year is the roster is huge. There's
massive,
90 guys, and when in your preseason, when you're getting in, when they're trying to hone it down, do you experience stuff like that?
So you have the draft picks come out, right? They're all part of the team until you start making some cuts. So it's pretty similar, a little bit different in terms of, like I said before, the size of the players and stuff like that. These guys are some monsters out there.
Yeah,
it's about
they're all built like goalies, right?
Yeah, you got to have that mentality. Like the mentality of a goalie is kind of a little bit different, right? A little bit more brave, and so, it's a good analogy.
Yeah. How long have the Bills kind of been on your radar, Jozy? Because obviously when you're a professional yourself, you're immersed in that world 24/7 because that's what it takes to be a professional at your level. But you're just across the border. You're playing at Toronto FC. I'm just curious, what was your level of exposure, even while you were still playing, to the Bills, and when did they get, squarely on your radar?
So let me tell you, if I'm being 100% honest right now, Toronto, almost.
You're right.
We got to get a new chair, Jay. We got to get a new chair, Jay. Have to sign a liability for him.
No, but I'm being honest with you. Buffalo is the team of Toronto.
Okay.
The team is so heavily supported out there. Like the amount of weekends and times I saw guys taking buses out there, going to jump on tables and be a part of all the action. Like, you can't miss it. It's incredibly popular in Toronto. And so I knew of the team from day one as soon as I landed. And I got to support the team and kind of see a different aspect of the fan base that is in Toronto, which is it's really rambunctious and really positive.
Have you attended a bunch of games at all?
I hadn't been like he said.
You have now, though.
I was locked in, on my sport. I watched all the time, every Sunday on TV, but I had never made the trip to come. I have now, and I absolutely love it. I mean, it's the similarities you get in terms of the fandom, right, that you see at a Bills game, especially that you have in soccer. It's like. It's really similar, so it's kind of cool to see that, and then just to be able to be a part of some of these games, man, it's been a lot of fun.
So now you are like a full-scale businessman, though, and you're on this side of the fence. You're not on the outside looking in. You're on the inside, kind of observing things from a business perspective and a business acumen. How has that kind of altered? Because you got to almost do a 180 in your head, going from the player way of things to the business side of things. How have you kind of shifted your mind to this line of work now from this perspective?
Oh, let me say, man, I gotta tip my hat to all my former GMs and presidents. No, because it's such a good point you're making, right? It's one way to kind of be a player and be locked in on the day-to-day, how you're going to push the organization forward, win championships. And it's a whole nother beast, right, being on the admin side and worried about, revenues and all these type of things that go into running a business, right, a profitable business. So it's definitely been an experience, and I definitely have a lot of sympathy for those guys, people that I drove crazy maybe as a player.
Right.
I understand the challenges now that they faced and how dynamic you have to be to build a good organization.
Right. So you have more sympathy for the GMs and owners.
Yes. Yes, of course. Yes.
Conversely, And I found myself with this. You have a little bit less tolerance for guys because you've been there, and it's like, come on, less tolerance and less sympathy for the players because you're on the other side of the table.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say less tolerance for the players. I mean, I think the one thing in all sports, the players are incredibly important to the business and making sure that, you build a community around them. I think that what I will say about the players is you want to make sure that you have an environment that is team first, right? That's one thing that I see even more now. You don't want to have an environment where people bring circuses and things that take away from trying to win championships. I think that's paramount to building a strong team.
So have you kind of sat down, collaborated, because you're not the only former pro athlete here on the equity side of things for the Bills. There's Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, who both spent some time in Toronto as well as professional athletes. Have you guys kind of sat down and talked some turkey a little bit, or how?
Listen, every time we're together, we're talking about it. We're talking about whether it be the tactics. I mean, those are two huge football guys, by the way, huge fans of the game. Tracy, I don't know if you ever see him throw a ball. He's got as good as a spiral as anybody. So we're always talking shop when we're together, and it's something we're passionate about. As former pros, that itch doesn't go away. Right. So to be able to share that together, it's been a lot of fun.
You've mentioned in passing just a minute ago about the environment, and one of the things that has set Buffalo apart under Sean McDermott has been this culture we hear about, where guys can come. We've seen it firsthand where players come in who are gifted but have found a place where they thrive and have far exceeded their expectations. How has that been presented to you, and you guys see it, and give us a little synopsis.
Guys come here and they get to be the best version of themselves.
How has that been presented to you? Have you seen evidence of that?
I have, and I think what's really important for players, especially young, some of these guys are young players, right? We forget that these are young men still growing and learning, right? And I think when you come into an environment like this, that I think allows people to be who they naturally are, right? Sometimes you go to some of these other markets, sometimes bigger markets, and you're a shell of yourself. The lights are too bright, so to speak. And I think here in Buffalo, the environment that's been created is every guy kind of sees where they can plug in and play, and they're allowed to be themselves. And I think you see that now in training camp. You see that off the field. Cameras aren't rolling from the admin side. So I think that being kind of the messaging and the theme throughout the organization has allowed players from all types to kind of come in and find their footing.
Okay, so last one for you. I got to ask you at least a U.S. men's national team question.
Okay.
So 10 months from now,
yes,
you're going to have the World Cup roster set, maybe even sooner than that, probably 9 months away. Who, if you had to handicap it, do you think is the starting number 9? I mean, who's lining up where you used to?
I did not see that coming.
Who do you think is it Balogun? Is it Pepe? Is it like who do you think has a really good look at that? I mean, it could be Sargent, it could be like a dark horse guy.
Yeah, it's tough to tell, man. We're still quite a ways out where a lot of things can happen from now until the summer.
Right.
But one thing I can tell you is, it's going to be like 7 Super Bowls, hopefully 7 or 8 games we can play, which will get us to the end of the tournament. And I just hope to see the support from the fans. I know it'll be there. We're one of the most well-supported teams throughout, World Cups. It's historic. Our fans show up. And I hope it's a celebration that we see here in the United States.
Do you like the pool, though, that coach has to choose from there
I like the pool
up top?
Of players. And I'll tell you this. I'm not a guy that's too worried right now because I think when you get to a World Cup, if you have guys that aren't up for an event like that, 70,000 screaming fans.
They don't have a pulse.
Yeah, exactly. Right, so to me, that's where I'll make my judgments. I think it's tough right now. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of fragmentation when you're leading up to a World Cup. But we'll be able to tell more in those lead-up games and how the players respond and are ready for a big moment like that.
If you won't walk out of the tunnel and don't respond to that,
right? You're in the wrong sport.
You're the wrong guy.
You're in the wrong sport.
You're the wrong guy, yeah.
So, I don't get too caught up in the build-up right now because, some of these crowds aren't great. There's this, that, nagging injuries. So, we'll tell a lot when the summer rolls around in those tune-up games.
It'll be a lot of fun for sure, getting the World Cup back on U.S. soil for sure. First time since '94, which I actually remember, which I'm kind of dating myself a little bit. I'm an old guy. Thanks for the time, Jozy.
No,
pleasure to meet you. Thanks for giving us
you.
some time here. Enjoy the rest of training camp, and we'll see you at the stadium, I'm sure, during the season, right?
Are you kidding me? I can't wait.
Good to hear. That's Jozy Altidore joining us here on One Bills Live. We'll take a break. Be back with more. Stay tuned. More training camp coverage coming your way.